No.
So this is why Scientology is a great religion, guys. I was
exactly. Yeah.
Sorry.
Way to come right into this conversation. I could go on for hours. Yeah.
You got a friend in me.
I loved it in Top Gun 2 where Tom Cruise changed his call sign to Scientology.
That was great.
Yeah, I think that was a nice touch.
It was Xenu.
But
we
actually want to be referred to as that.
Yeah.
Really just helped
Bit on the
update
helmet.
it. It felt
It
much
did.
more accommodating to today's life. Yeah.
Although it was awkward for all of his wingmen to have to pay $1,000 to get in the cockpit with him.
Right.
So,
Well, we're not going to spend this. Look, as much as tempting as it might be, we're not going to spend this live stream attacking religion. We are going to talk about Lightyear, the new Pixar movie. The first Pixar movie, in fact, in a couple of years since Onward to get a big screen treatment. So, yeah. What?
Well, it's not straight up Pixar. It's Disney and Pixar.
But that's been the case for a long time.
Leviosa.
Okay.
Got it.
All right.
Yeah, because Disney owns Pixar, but this is the first Pixar movie to be on the big screen. There've been some, Disney movies, certainly. They've had a healthy mix, but a lot of this stuff has gone to streaming. I know that's been sort of a point of contention because they keep coming out with these movies and like, hey, Pixar used to be the big deal. Why aren't we getting a big screen release? And it's like, well, there's COVID, but we have Disney Plus. So now we're back in the theater with Lightyear. And here to discuss Lightyear, not Buzz Lightyear, just Lightyear, is our Earth's Mightiest Critics. I am joined once again by Annie Banks of Chuckload of Comics and Movie Web, Will Johnson, aka No Tim Allen, No Ticket. We'll talk about that later. Of Cinephile Hissy Fit Podcast, Don Shanahan of 25YL and the Cinephile Hissy Fit Podcast, and Every Movie Has a Lesson, David Fowlie of Keeping It Real, and Buzzed Lightyear himself, Mark Krawczyk of the Spoiler Room Podcast, and Special Mark Productions. And I'm Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. This is the live stream that you're watching right now. So, intros aside, the number 2 movie in America. Who would have thought that'd be the case with a new Pixar film, especially the return to the big screen, lost out to a bunch of dinosaurs, and not the big green fella voiced by Wallace Shawn. We're talking about Jurassic World Dominion, a film that I think we are mostly, all of us, convinced was going to have been extinct by week 2, or at least showing signs of fading out, especially in light of Pixar's Lightyear. Anyone else as surprised as I am that happened?
No, because the society we live in now, everybody can find something to plant their flag in the ground and go, oh, there was a gay kiss, and there's a movie without Tim Allen, and there's a thing with the thing and the thing. And then, the next thing you know, the movie makes $4 million because there's a campaign against it. It's I think, I won't name the person, but I think a notable film critic told us that Buzz Lightyear is grooming children.
What?
Oh boy.
So,
No, expose them.
To be Space Rangers. Cool.
yeah.
Wow.
Let's put them on blast. Put the
No. But I mean, it was talking about how Pixar in general is grooming children to like. I think they weren't using grooming in the
Ezra Miller sense.
Perhaps.
Sorry.
They were using it more as like grooming, like people to like substandard films.
Do you
and
mean conditioning?
Well, I mean, I could,
haircuts and
but based on the
underarms.
results of Lightyear, I could definitely make that case. As far as anything else, I am not sure. This is going to be kind of an interesting panel tonight because I know at least 2 of us were very fond of the movie, and 2 of us were not, and we have 2 who are complete wild cards. I have no idea. So, Don and Will, I'm pretty sure that you were in the positive camp, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mark and I were not as impressed. Now, right in the middle, we have Annie and David. Yeah, there you go. And you look like you're looking right down into David's eyes.
It's like the Brady Bunch.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's just get some high-level opinions. Annie, what did you think of Lightyear?
You know what? I was really neutral going into this, and I think I was really neutral going out of it, just because it didn't have enough conviction to sway me one way or the other. I thought that the art department was outstanding. I really enjoyed the animated aspects of it. I thought that with everything that is released by Disney's animated components, whether it be Walt Disney Animation or Pixar, they just continue to challenge themselves and elevate what they're able to do. And that deserves to be praised right off the bat. I don't know how I felt about the story itself. I think it was just kind of there. You know what I mean? It's a movie and it exists. I don't feel any emotional resonation with it. I don't feel any inclination to go see it again. I'm glad I watched it. I can say I watched it. I can check that box off my list and keep on going. I liked the voice acting performances. I thought those were very engaging, and it added a little more life to something that a lot of people have cast hesitancy on because of certain connotations associated with the film. I'm a big Chris Evans guy. I like Chris Evans. I'm a fan of Chris Evans. And I think it was kind of fun to see him do something different compared to his traditional medium of being big and strong. You know what I mean? He gets to do something different, and show that he, has this strong presence. But it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite Disney Pixar movie. I definitely think it's geared toward an older audience that might feel a little more of a connection to Toy Story. I think it was like a solid middle ground. I'm not opinionated one sense or another. I think I could take it as is and live without. If I don't watch it again, I'll be okay. Mm-hmm. But I think seeing it once has helped me appreciate what Pixar has accomplished.
Okay, a perfectly reasoned middle position. I like that.
Thank you.
David, where are you at? You just saw this afternoon. Like you were fresh out of the theater pretty much.
I went by myself because I think my daughter and my wife were sick of me by the time this Monday afternoon rolled around, and end of a 3-day weekend. Yeah. And I usually equate like really hot summer weather with escapism to the movies, Mm-hmm. And so, this did it for me. If I think about it too much, it didn't quite stick a couple of landings, maybe one landing, and a certain twist at the end was kind of eye rolling. But overall, I'm kind of with Annie. Like the art production was, just wonderful. Really just beautiful looking, and like the world building. I loved all that, and definitely makes me want to get one of those art of books.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think the throughout across the board, the casting is cool. I don't know at what point, how soon I'll be getting sick of Taika Waititi, but we'll see. It's getting there, folks. But at least his voice, But I mean, I kind of like Annie. I had no real expectations going in. I had gotten to the point where I was sick of Tim Allen's Buzz Lightyear. Look, I'm at the age where I didn't grow up with them. I was well into my 20s when the first one came out. And so that's my kind of high level. I enjoyed it, and I might even see it again when it comes to Disney Plus. But it was a great theatrical experience just to see it in the big screen. I saw it in Dolby. I guess I wasn't too surprised when I went to go to my app that there was a whole lot of seats available. And so, that speaks a lot. I think one of the reasons why it's number 2, not because it is number 2, although there's a couple people here who think that way, but it's
number 2, all right. I mean, Jurassic World. Sorry, that doesn't make sense. I just needed to do a poop.
Well, it's kind of crazy that Jurassic World is number 1 on its second weekend. I was thinking that Top Gun would be back up on top, but I don't know. I guess I wasn't, because it's funny because it wasn't like Toy Story or Lightyear, a Toy Story movie. If it was Toy Story on there, I think more people go because they're like, what's that? What's Lightyear? I could see some people not even equating that this is based on a Toy Story toy because the movie's called Lightyear and not Buzz Lightyear. I think that's how daft some people are, but anyway.
Well, I wouldn't equate it to daftness necessarily. I mean, the marketing behind this film was very confusing. I mean, I didn't have any idea what the actual premise was until I saw critics tweeting about it. I think one of them put up they had sort of translated or transcribed the opening, paragraph of the film on Twitter after having seen it. I was like, okay, now everything makes sense. But seeing the trailer for it, it's like, okay, you've got this Buzz Lightyear, and he looks like he looks like the Pixar version of a real kind of adult person. And he's going off on space missions, and there's all these other people, and he's crash landing on a planet, and that's basically all you get. What does this have to do with Toy Story? And then for anyone who doesn't know, I guess I'm just going to put up the banner because maybe this is a spoiler, but I don't know. Maybe, in fact, this is probably the kind of spoiler that would help if you don't know it and you're conflicted about going to see Lightyear for non-political reasons. There is an opening title card that says something to the effect of, in 1995, a little boy named Andy received a Buzz Lightyear action figure. It was based on his favorite movie. This is that movie. So this is a science fiction adventure that Andy got taken to as an 8-year-old kid or whatever. And he loved it so much, and he got the Buzz Lightyear action figure. And you know what? I think, for me personally, this is kind of like, I can't say this for sure how intentional that was, but it feels like on the last episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi, which we won't talk about, but they put that they put a trigger warning in front of the episode because of some potentially disturbing imagery that I guarantee wasn't there when they were putting the whole thing together. It was in light of incidents that have happened in the last month. This felt to me almost like a trigger warning because the substance of what we see in the Lightyear film has nothing to do with the contents of that opening title card. I feel like it was a last-ditch gambit. An executive producer was like, this still doesn't make any sense. We have to find a way to sell it to the audience. Because to me, if you take out that little title card, the movie still doesn't really work, but it works a hell of a lot better than it does, because having that piece of information there opens up a whole set of problems in terms of the movie that we're watching. I can understand if you're trying to make a film that looks like it was a science fiction film that was made in 1995, but this looks like a Pixar movie that was made in 2022. And part of it, no, Tim Allen, no movie that came out in 95 looked anything like this movie.
No, I'm not arguing that. We'll get into that later when I get my turn. But yeah, I disagree a little bit. But
well, let's talk about it. What do you disagree with?
See, the reason why I love the film, and this is a rare film for me where I did like the visuals more than the story, because I think the story is a very basic, archetypal, almost Star Wars-like story where you have a character going through a very simple character arc that you can kind of predict what's going to happen, and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, the story didn't blow me away, but I don't think every movie has to reinvent the wheel. It's one of the criticisms of films that drives me nuts is when everyone's like, well, it didn't say anything new and it's not original. It's like, yeah, but really, when you really think about it, there's, like with Shakespeare, there's only 8 or 9 real stories out there, and sometimes you want to see the same thing. It's something we do even as children. We watch the same thing over and over again to feel better about ourselves. So I don't mind the story being predictable or whatever, but the visuals are astounding. But I think it's actually, and I was actually talking to Mike Crowley about this with The Phantom Menace as well. You do have a film at that time that was the peak of the visual effects. So, I mean, Phantom Menace looks great, but it's supposed to be quote unquote older, galaxy far, far away. I thought this movie, even though it had the best technology available, it still had like a thematic throwback to the 50s sci-fi epics, where the visuals were king over the story. It was like, look what we can show you. So yeah, the technology is 2022, but I thought that the way the creatures were designed and the spaceships, and it just reminded me of the 50s rocket iconography. It threw me back to like an older type of storytelling, and I really like that.
I understand where you're coming from, but I still don't quite accept it.
No,
here's the thing: when filmmakers today are trying to make a movie that is set in the past, they'll do everything from wardrobes to sets to even different kinds of filters on the film to make it look period. You know, Ty West did not.
Except Star Trek.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, the new Star Trek takes place before we, are introduced to Kirk.
Right,
And
but the new Star Trek, but the new
Strange
Star Trek
New
is the right, but
Yeah,
the
but
new
that's a
Star Trek is.
reboot.
But the new Star Trek is not selling itself as a Star Trek show that was made in 1965.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like it
but
doesn't feel like.
I get what David's saying because the presence of Nimoy kind of screws with that a little bit,
Well, it doesn't feel like the original series is coming around a corner. It doesn't. You feel like it's like we're going from really modern look to 60s look. Then okay.
That's true.
I don't think it's a matter of them trying to make a movie that would have existed in the 90s. I think it's
but that's what the title card is telling us.
Right.
They're saying the reality of the Toy Story world. This is the movie Andy would have gone to see, and yet this movie looks nothing like a movie you would see in 95. And we're going to get to that kiss because that was a big problem for me, but not for the cultural reason. It's because in 1995 you would not have had a biracial lesbian couple announcing their marriage, even in the setting of a futuristic space movie. That's not something you would have seen in a family film.
Yeah, that wouldn't have happened in 95.
No.
But it's interesting that this is in 95 because this was the same, was that if the movie was released in 95, that's when
it would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that would make sense because that's when the original Toy Story was.
Because you'd already have toy merchandise out for a movie coming out in 95.
Right.
So
this is what I'm saying.
Track the hypothetical production timeline with this.
But have you ever look at people that watch, maybe not the original Star Trek because the budget was extremely low, but when you were a kid, you would watch stuff and you would be like, this is amazing. These costumes and visual effects are astounding. And then, you watch it 30 years later and you go, oh, that was really cheesy, or that didn't really work, or I can tell that's makeup, or I can tell that's on a green screen. I think I don't want to get hung up in the weeds of when the movie's supposed to set up, blah, 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 blah. I think it's more that mindset. The reason why I love this movie is I really felt like a kid watching it, just like I did when I watched Star Wars. And I think that's the more important part. It's like, would an 8-year-old kid want to go out and immediately buy an action figure of this? I would buy an action figure of this. I want to buy a Lightyear figure right now after watching that movie because it has that very simplistic plot style, character motivation, action adventure, fun stuff. I think because of Pixar's reputation, as these big event things, and I actually talked to Don about this with Turning Red, where they tried to make a small story for a while and then they had to get big at the end. This is just plain old style kid adventure, and that would make you want to go out and buy toys. Now that has two different meanings. I think in the level of Toy Story, it means, yes, if I was 8, I would want to go out and buy a Buzz Lightyear toy because he's awesome. The movie is awesome. There's cool robots. There's space. It's more a feeling than an intention. I just don't think we should get stuck on the 95 thing. You know what I mean?
Well, but
I'm with my. I'll back my.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'll back my podcast partner here. I dug the movie for that exact reason. I kind of, once that title card came up, I was, reasonably confused by what they were doing here. But once that title card came up and said, all right, put yourself in the head of a kid watching a movie enough to fall in love with an action figure. And that's the story I saw. This is the story I got. I'm kind of with my podcast partner where you can kind of get lost in the, wait a minute, would this really be 1995? I think we're in a fantasy world already where toys talk. So, I can't get that picky and nitpicky about the period detail that could or couldn't be there. Would it be slicker for Pixar to do that, to like make a 95-esque movie and be more meta about it? Yeah, I think there's a level of creativity that could have been there to make this very James Cameron-esque or John Woo-ish or anything like that, just to have a little fun. Not that anybody should be taking an 8-year-old to a John Woo movie in 1994, 1995, but I know what they're saying. And I guess if it wanted to be more meta like that, it could have, where maybe the people who are playing Buzz Lightyear could be like, you do like credit sequences and actors and things like that, where like, a dude by the name of Chris Evans is playing Buzz Lightyear, or the dude by the name of whoever you want. Like you could have did another
that's a point I hadn't actually thought of, Don, is this movie further doesn't
within
work
the movie
because it violates the concept of the movie within the movie. I mean, this thing completely falls apart. And I was thinking about how would this actually work. I feel like if you, not to make a sequel, like, because we don't need a Toy Story 5, But if this movie was called Lightyear and it was about a grown-up Andy taking his kids to see the new Hollywood adaptation of his favorite childhood toy, and this is the origin of Buzz Lightyear that you've never seen before, a simple wraparound story, and you've got him and his family leaving the theater and they're all like heartwarmed and maybe they learn a lesson or something, sort of like a bookend. That's fine. But the thing is, the people who made this movie set out with a premise. Again, let's just assume that the title card was not stuck on at the end because no one knew what the hell the end product was supposed to mean. If they came into this intentionally, then they sort of owe it to the audience as well as themselves to come up with something that is as smart as just the premise of what they're doing. The premise of Lightyear is not, hey, it's the origin of Buzz Lightyear. The premise of Lightyear is, this is the movie that came out in 95 that enraptured Andy so much they had to have the toy. I argue that the Lightyear film isn't even the kind of thing that would keep an 8-year-old boy in rapt attention because, okay, he's a space ranger. Allegedly, he's had other Space Rangers adventures, but the entire plot of this film is a ripoff of Interstellar mixed in with thematic elements from Up. They are stuck on the same rock and they go through these light loops and come back a few years later. They don't go anywhere. They don't encounter any alien species, really, except for Zurg and his army of robots that all look the same and have no personality.
And
I mean, that's where I'll go back to Will again, where like sometimes those movies we watched when we were 8 weren't very good, but they're damn fun. And I don't know, I saw a damn fun movie that I can't wait to take my soon-to-be 8-year-old to see. So I'm down. But the minutia. The minutia and the weeds that you're talking about are fair. As soon as you go meta in the way that they're going meta, that's a fair wonder. Like I would be curious in the production process when that title card was created, because I'm with you. If that was what it was going to be, lead with that in the marketing, and you endear people a lot easier than you do by, hey, it's Chris and not Tim and all this BS we got going now. So
But you bring up a good point. You said the M word. You said marketing, right? And as someone who works in marketing, my number one thing with this is that it's who is this film for, and who is it to resonate with? Because I wanted to be really excited about it. I really wanted. I saw the cast list. I'm a big Taika fan. I don't think I will get tired of him anytime soon, especially knock on wood with something he's doing really soon. So,
are you talking about Thor: Love and Thunder?
I am talking about Thor: Love and Thunder, and that will.
I thought
possibly that might cure my Marvel fatigue. I am
not Jojo Rabbit 2.
Is that where we get Mussolini?
Right.
It's a bunker. That would be Gutbuster.
It's
I saw this cast list, and I saw, I don't really like to pay attention to other marketing because that sways me, right? So as a marketer, I'm like, all right, we see Lightyear, I see the suit, I see the Space Ranger. I was old enough when Toy Story came out where I was the target audience for the kids. Toy Story scared the hell out of me as a kid.
Especially the baby.
Yeah, freaked me out. So I noped right out of that one real fast.
Thank God animation's gotten better.
Gosh, but
I'm waiting for them to remake Toy Story and clean it up.
Millennial, like the target group of 18-year-olds to 34-year-olds, right? And people who are in the late 20s to early 30s who are taking their kids to go see this and pass on that Disney legacy, pass on that Pixar legacy, say, it's like we just said, Andy taking his kids to go see the movie.
Yeah.
This is what it should have been. And there was such a, I would love to be a fly on the wall during their marketing meetings and their pitch sessions and kind of mapping out, because there was really no social media presence. Right?
No. I think the name will sell itself.
Like Chris tweeted out something that was wrong about the movie. He did, and now people are looking back at this tweet and going, I really don't know what I'm getting into. And if the lead voice actor doesn't know, then how should I know, right? But that's something that struck me, that I'm like, it looks super cool and it looks very pretty. And as a science fiction fan, right, I want to be excited about this and I want to see it do well. Not because it's, a Disney film, but because it could be something that could be a spark for young animators, young artists, new creative people who need a push to get into that industry. This could be it, like Toy Story did for the people working on it. Unfortunately, it's hard to pin that down because it's so bogged down with political discourse. that we should be far
that's
over.
part of it. We'll circle back to that in a second. I'm sorry, Annie, to cut you off, but Mark, you've been trying to get a word in.
No, it's okay.
Like
No, it's all right.
I
That's
feel
fine.
like there's something that you wanted to get in.
No, I was just agreeing that I think it surprised me they went with a black title card screen saying basically a la Blair Witch saying, here is the foot. You know, I mean, it felt like that. It felt, I think one, that would have been a great setup. You've got Disney, you've got Pixar. They could have easily gotten an older Andy, a footage. You open up with older Andy taking his kids, walking past a marquee that says Lightyear. You don't even have, just saying, hey, I remember this was a kid. This should be great, And then
Or
they
it's
sit down in a
remake of
theater.
his classic favorite movie.
Right. Just
Yeah.
one or two lines. And then you've got his whole family sitting down into a theater. And then you zoom to the screen and then you start Lightyear. And at least that you set it up so you know kind of more of the context of what you're seeing. For me, I loved the technical aspects of this. I did. Artistry, beautiful. Loved it. I didn't even think of it. Oh, this is going to be in 95 or whatnot. So I didn't have any problems with any of that. Being a sci-fi person, the kids, if this was made in 95, deserve a better sci-fi film than this, because there's a lot of things that are just left out there or not. One, the mission.
Yeah.
Okay. He keeps referring to, we have to complete the mission. What mission?
Well,
what
Getting off the
mission?
planet.
And
I
then,
thought it was really
and then
simple. But
what? No. Before getting off the planet, he had a mission.
Yeah, they got
and
interrupted.
they diverted to another planet while they were on the mission to go
the
to
colony mission.
another mission.
But that mission that he keeps talking about on and on throughout the movie is getting off the planet and getting back to Earth.
Yeah. Well, or to wherever they're going.
Well, the original
I think
the original
that's
mission is much like Star Command's much like Starfleet. So we can assume that the original mission was to explore the universe. And that's why, it said initially got him out of, cryo sleep, and they said, oh, we need to divert because we see a planet with sustenance.
Okay, then if they don't have hyperspeed, how are they supposed to defend the galaxy against? Because that's what was sitting out there as well. They were trying to get their interstellar travel to get off the planet to go, I guess, back to Earth. They don't even barely mention Earth. They just say, just get off the planet. And then when they stay, they decide to be Galactic Space Rangers, but they haven't figured out the technology to actually get back to Earth to hit the full, supposedly the full hyperspeed. And yet they're getting notifications from across the galaxy that they need to go rescue someone at the very end.
At the very that's something that kind of bugged me too, is because they wrap this whole thing up very quickly at the end to the point where, like, you know what, getting back home is no longer important. We're just going to stay here, but we're also going to set up an intergalactic space force here. So it's like, well, could you not do both? Is there nobody that would like to try and finish the mission, as it were? Because there might be some, surviving people back home.
That's kind of the thematic arc of Buzz, is that we live through him. Yeah. He's only encountering like 15 days, whereas this society has lived there for almost over a century. It's become their home, and we don't know what. I mean, they obviously were able to, within 100 years, build a laser shield over the base. I mean, they might have advanced the technology, but we don't know, because we're from Buzz, who is literally just coming in and missing everything that's happening. Like, we follow along with him. So we don't have no idea how advanced things have gotten or what they've built and blah, blah, blah.
I think that's a much more interesting story that, if the film had cared enough to explore, would have made a richer science fiction film. One of the things that bothered me was every time Buzz comes back, there's a new building, a new shield, new advancements in technology. They just kind of found this planet on accident, and they just happen to have all of the resources that they need to build everything, like an ultra futuristic society in the course of 60 years.
It wasn't an accident. They found it. They went there. It met their requirements. They landed on the planet. The accident was not getting off the planet. That was the accident. Right. The planet met all their requirements, and they also said in the movie, they said
they made the best.
The planet's resources, and they actually hint at that later on. They show that there's like entire sections that have been deforested. like they've completely
The
like
dark side of
ravaged
them,
the planet.
yeah.
Yeah, they're like
Right.
they mention that they take care of that part.
That's no, they
Yeah.
not really. They say that the planet can sustain life. It's got everything we need to settle down. They haven't explored the entire geography of the planet. Wouldn't it have been interesting if, say, a movie like The Martian, yeah, you can build an air tent on Mars and live there.
Space potatoes.
Right, space potatoes. But what if there's something crucial that they would need to survive that they don't have? There's a much more
That's the
interesting
fuel
story
source they're
going
going
on.
for.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is
Okay.
there's a much more interesting story happening while Buzz is out there hopping around through time that we're not actually getting to see. The story that we do get to see, is kind of pedestrian. And yes, it's made for kids and everything, but I'm going to argue a little bit with you, Will. I think especially if you're going to spend $200 million making a movie, it better be something that's kind of worth seeing, because otherwise you can just put on the poster, you've seen it. If you're okay with that, give me your money.
We got comments.
I don't know though, because I don't know. Like for example, it's like with music. Like I like heavy metal music. There's thousands of heavy metal bands. Sometimes there's a certain band that gets that sound right. You can have another band make the same sound, but it doesn't have that feel. Pixar is able to, even with a more pedestrian story, so to speak, they're able to deliver the goods even just on a visual. Like the music they're playing, I'm vibing with. So like it's not necessarily what story they're telling. I mean, I thought it was totally worth it for the visuals alone, but I also like the story because, like I said, I think it's more of a spirit thing. It's a spirit of an old adventure film than trying to be an adventure film. I think a lot of these things we're talking about, the reason why they landed on that planet. I mean, if we're going to get technical about a movie about a toy, essentially, I think all those things have been covered. I mean, they said, hey, this planet meets all our needs. I'm assuming they've been on there for a long time.
But here's a point that would be covered in a good science fiction story. What if they were wrong? What if they said, hey, this planet meets all of our needs, except for something we hadn't thought about?
That was covered in Alien Covenant.
That's not a movie you're taking
If
an
this
8-year-old
movie-
to. You guys
if
are
this
asking for a Christopher Nolan movie from 1995. I'm asking for a James Cameron movie from 1995.
I'm asking for a movie that will help me to stay awake. I went to see this in a quarter-crowded theater on Father's Day, 1:00, and at the end, there was no reaction. There were kids in the audience, but I think they were getting woken up. Much like me, I was struggling to get through this movie because there is nothing here.
Just woken up.
We can all agree that kids are stupid. So I mean, we can all agree on that, right? Right, guys? High five. No, I'm just kidding. No.
You're hanging out there on that one.
No, I think you mean people are stupid.
It's one of those things where I wish they hadn't mentioned some things, because by them mentioning something, just leaving them out, I think keeping it basic, we keep saying, well, it's a basic story, but they keep dropping these other nuggets, including you're there 100 years. Okay, is Earth no longer existing? They don't have another group coming out. They haven't heard from this colony for over 100 years. They have the technology for interstellar travel. Are they the only colony left? No,
oh my gosh,
it's just like, no, listen.
Asking Criterion Collection questions for a movie for an 8-year-old. I'm sorry.
Listen,
the thing is that, like, why would you go in such a complex direction for an 8-year-old? Like, if I sat down right with Pixar himself, the Pixar lamp, and he jumped on me, right? I don't know, like, how it is in the opening.
Oh, the lamp with the thing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay.
But like, if I had that kind of, like, if I could go into the Toy Story universe and pick one character and go, I would like to see this certain individual be turned into a spinoff or a standalone prequel, sequel, what have you, right? Whose idea was it to choose Lightyear? Like, he's one of the biggest characters, most recognizable characters. But when I think about something like that, and I want to take my kid to something exciting, I would like to see, maybe a spaghetti western with Woody. You know what I mean? Something like that. More engaging. Or
go watch Borrowed Time.
But I'm just saying, there are so many other directions that they could have taken this in, and really had some time to wallow in a creative process and think about how they can make this make sense with the complexities of time travel, with going from planet to planet, with thinking about the consequences.
And here's the thing.
Planet. But they just kind of threw things at the wall and hope it stuck and hope that you didn't fall asleep.
Hey, that's Don's line. Don't steal my podcast.
No, and I want to back you up, Annie, and push back against this notion of, what 8-year-old is going to sit through that movie. How about the 8-year-old that went to see Back to the Future and loved it? How about the 8-year-old that went to go see Toy Story 3? Probably the emotional and narrative highlight of the trilogy. I don't acknowledge that there's anything past Toy Story 3. Kids are not, despite the jokiness, kids are not dumb. And I think that when we give them, entertainment that is simplistic, I think one of the reasons that they're likely to reject a movie like Lightyear is like, that's it. To Annie's point, if you're going to make a movie about a space ranger and have him stuck on a rock, going around in circles and advancing in time where he's just surrounded by a bunch of old people and no aliens, and to the point where at the end, the conflict, the big villain, they take Zurg, the evil space alien villain from the Toy Story, if you want to call him mythos. And who is under that mask? He's not just a giant evil robot overlord. It's an old Buzz Lightyear who's got the same.
No argument
he's got
there.
the same right as the end of Up, the evil industrial billionaire guy who wants to ruin everything because he's bitter about something.
Well, did you want it to be like Toy Story 2, I'm your father? Is that what you wanted? I mean,
no, it just be the robot. Just be an evil robot.
Alien.
They didn't need to make him.
That's my one knock.
Buzz. They didn't need to make him Buzz at all. There was no reason to. If anything, if they wanted a connection to Buzz, they could have literally made it so that Buzz ended up asking them to build a robot that ended up turning against him. If you want, it's still simple, but I mean, them making Buzz Zurg
the antagonist,
made himself the antagonist. That's where we jump from. This is just for an 8-year-old. To we're going to also play to the older folks who have grown up with Toy Story, because we're trying to make a statement about growing old and that as well. If they would have just left it as an evil robot and have him just battling it out in a wicked fun battle for the last, it would have probably landed better, and I would have gave it more than 2.5 on it. But I was middle of the road when he revealed that he was Buzz. I was like, oh, come on. We hit all other sci-fi tropes. Did we have to hit this one?
I literally thought when he revealed himself, I'm like, hey, Buzz, I'm George Clooney.
Yeah.
It would have been voiced by George Clooney and everything. It would have been awesome.
But you know what? Here's the other problem. And I know, Annie, you said you were a fan of Chris Evans in this movie. I'm not. But that's not necessarily because of the voice acting. It's because I think this movie No, well, please stay. No, and I promise we'll get to the comments in just a minute because they've been kind of building up. But I think, regardless of what you think of Tim Allen, I don't really have a problem with him. I think the biggest beef people have with him is that he's a conservative. It is what it is. But, I think that the way that he played the Buzz Lightyear character, there needed to be more of that in this movie. Make it a comedy with dramatic, kind of sci-fi undertones. We talked about Galaxy Quest on the Facebook video. If this movie had an ounce of Galaxy Quest in it, I think it would have been something, really special. I feel like they could have the big Zurg reveal, and the Tim Allen Buzz Lightyear would have had like a witty retort or an incredulous kind of, I don't know, something to come back to. Someone else talk. I got to plug in my computer because the batteries just went into reserve mode. 1 second.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I think, like, I guess we can get into this whole Tim Allen controversy because it's really, it blows my mind. I think it was, who's the actress who played his wife on Home Improvement?
Patricia Heaton.
Yeah.
She was
no,
on
that
Twitter
wasn't
saying,
her. That's his wife on the other show he does.
No.
Home Improvement was.
Home Improvement is the other girl, the other lady, Christine something or Stahl or something.
Yeah. It's the
it's Patricia Heaton.
It's the new conservative show he does. It's Patricia Heaton.
Yeah, where he's like a right-wing blogger.
Patricia Richardson was his wife on Home Improvement.
Okay. All right. So, that was the actress's name?
Yeah, it was the actress's name was Patricia.
Anyway, for Everybody Loves Raymond.
Anyway,
and moved into
that's
Patricia.
Okay. So anyway, there was All right. So there was another actress on Twitter going, I can't believe they didn't have Tim Allen in this role. This is crazy, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, first of all, we don't need another actor coming in saying, I can't believe this actor wasn't cast in their original role. It's like, okay. But bottom line is like, do you not understand the concept of this? It would be kind of, they're trying to do something different. I mean, I understand if Tim Allen is brought back to do something totally different with the character, fine. But it would still be a little distracting to me if Tim Allen was playing this role, because we know him from kind of like the overly actor, kind of like the overly comedic toy. You press a button and you hear "To Infinity and Beyond," or "Blast," or "Wait here," And then and those are buttons on the toy. And when Andy's gone, then he becomes alive as Tim Allen. I get that. But if this was a toy that was based on a movie, I wouldn't want Tim Allen to be voicing the character. And it makes sense for me to have Chris Evans as kind of a, perfect for the role. We know him as this kind of, what do we know him mainly for? Cap, and it's
cellular.
Yeah,
totally.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. But it's just kind of perfect for the role. And I don't understand how people aren't getting that. And and maybe because people aren't getting that, that's why they had to have that almost like not even an intro, more like a disclaimer. And it's just kind of,
but David, you kind of bring up a sort of one of the fundamental problems with the film is that the Buzz Lightyear action figure is based ostensibly on this character from this movie who has those kind of cheesy "To Infinity and Beyond" and there's sort of an overblown Captain Kirk-esque kind of a cartoon character of a space adventurer. So to have that toy based on what we get in this movie, that's another disconnect because they're not the same person. They're not even trying.
I disagree because when let's just talk about Shatner. When you watch some of these older Star Trek movies, like even Star Trek 3, Star Trek 2, are there Shatnerisms? Yes, but the problem is when you become a cultural icon, things get exaggerated over time. Shatner is not, he's literally not in every Star Trek episode. He's not going, I see the creature. He's not doing that. He's maybe got some of that mannerisms, but it's as something happens over time, there's, what is that? The Mandela effect where you think you see one thing and it's not that. And this other thing.
But we're not talking about Shatner. We are talking about, if you're going back to, and this is where it gets all confusing.
Well,
in
go
1990,
ahead,
but in 1995, with the Buzz Lightyear action figure, I'm saying the way that character was written and the way he was voiced by Tim Allen and ostensibly directed based on the screenplay and the idea was I'm going to use the word Shatner-esque, and I don't want to quite get hung up on that, but a kind of boastful, cheesy space adventurer who has these, right. Okay.
But wait, we are supposed to interject there. Calling back to that specific, boastful attitude, especially where throughout the Toy Story movies, in the first one, that message is putting across, you are a toy, right? And they're calling back to that Shatnerism that we're kind of discussing here, this very boastful and inflated sense of ego that we see Lightyear with. I think we kind of taken the Galaxy Quest route where it's more deflated and more mellowed and more calm, or more down to earth. Bad phrase for this one, but down to earth is a great choice, because that was the message of the first one, where it insisted that this isn't the same guy. There was an insistence that it's all a parroting effect. It's mimicking. It's an identity crisis.
But here's the thing: if we're going, well, okay, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just gonna say that toy. You got to remember, this is what makes Toy Story so great is they take the quality of the toys. I mean, I don't even think today. I don't know. I don't collect a lot. I collect stuff, but I don't collect modern day action figures. No, modern day action figures. I don't know if talking back in the day, at least in my day, if you had a doll that talked, it would only say 3 lines, and it had to be something super exciting. It wasn't like the doll's suddenly going to speaking about nuclear proliferation or something. The doll's just going to say, "Go to action." It's like the reason why Buzz was kind of like that is because his toy had to be very direct and very simple, to infinity and beyond. That's what a toy would have been like. The toy is not going to talk in complex sentences and things like that.
That's because the toy is based on the character that is in the movie or the TV show. The toys from the 80s that talked, they reflected the characters that they were being,
I
portrayed.
don't think so,
And
because
they're
you can't
always
really do that.
exaggerated. They're always exaggerated. Go
Always
to,
exaggerated.
Tell you what, go walk to the toy aisle, press on a Robert Pattinson Batman figure, and you will not hear a line from the movie. I'm sorry.
He's gonna beat
You know,
the
it
shit
just-
out of you
it's just-
instead. He's just
Could
gonna
be-
say,
yeah,
"Oh,
and, or no, actually,
be
they have to
awesome.
mellow all that down. So it's just
Well, I mean,
they're
you can
always
look at.
exaggerated.
I've got for the last few years, I've gotten Star Wars, the talking head ornaments, and they play lines
Okay.
from the movie. Those aren't like
those are Star
interpretations
Wars,
of the
yeah.
character, but I'm talking about the idea of merchandising and taking what a character is.
Yeah.
The reason you want that toy, and especially the talking version, is it's going to remind you of what you saw in the movie. So what I'm saying is there is a disconnect here between what Buzz Lightyear the toy is, and I'm not even saying it's close. I'm saying there's a mile of difference between the real life Buzz Lightyear that we see in Lightyear and the toy that was allegedly based on him. There's kind of a disconnect, which again I think gets back to whatever was going on with the story conceptually. But we're going to pull over for a second because I know, David, this has been driving you crazy. We have comments to get to.
Can't ignore him.
We can't. Like Glenn Close in Fatal Attraction. All right. I'm doing this without a mouse, you guys. Got to plug in
Also
my
a great
phone
action
for it.
figure, man. I tell you, I love that one.
Oh
Rabbit.
yeah, it comes with a
The
rabbit.
accessories
Yeah,
are incredible.
Comes
you know?
with a
Yeah.
pot and a rabbit.
It's weird that it's like it's weird that it's like Catherine somebody else's voice though. So
Yeah.
Kathleen Turner.
Kathy Turner.
Kathleen Turner. Yeah, it's all raspy.
Kathleen
Instead of-
Turner in
just instead of
Fatal
going to
Attraction.
it, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I would watch that in
It's
a
like
heartbeat.
Jessica Rabbit.
There you go. Jessica Rabbit in Fatal Attraction acting against Michael Douglas. Make
There
it
you go.
happen.
With Roger Rabbit in the
oh, boy.
pot. Oh, there we
Oh
go.
my goodness, I love it.
Oh! Boom, boom.
David, get to drawing that. I want to see a picture. That was a perfect button, Mark. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Miguel
Lovely.
says, my kids loved it. My youngest has no interest in the toys. Cha-ching for me, and thank God for matinee prices. Exactly.
go.
Although, geez, matinee prices aren't even what I went to see this thing in the Butt Rumbler, and it was like $20 for a 1 o'clock on a Sunday.
Dolby.
Yeah, that's the shorthand for Butt Rumbler.
Yeah,
I should
yeah.
probably mention
Wow.
that because other people are going to have no idea what the hell I'm talking about.
But you
theater
had in the
did you
butt
watch
rumbler,
it?
let's be honest.
That's the wrong Buzz Lightyear.
It
Ian.
was
Wrong.
called the Admiral. All right. All right.
Buzz Lightyear.
Oh!
Butt Rumbler.
Oh boy.
Mega also says, I love the visuals, but story and the reveal in the end I thought were stale. But then again, what is original anymore?
Mm.
There you go. Let's see. Petty says, good night, everyone. What a joy to see the whole gang together again. Indeed, it is a joy to be back with all of my dear friends and critics.
And me. Just kidding.
All right. I didn't want to say it. No, I'm sorry.
Just kidding.
All right. Petty also says Disney is blowing up every fan base of all of the IPs they own, and if the movie doesn't work out, the fans are intolerant in some way. If you attack the fan bases, then who will buy the tickets? That is a very fair point. Let's see. The question that remains floating there is, if they made a Sheriff Woody movie, would Disney recast Tom Hanks?
Yes.
They recast Solo. They
with-
can recast Harrison
Alec
Ford. They can
Baldwin?
recast Tom Hanks.
No.
That would be
Yes,
really
that's-
interesting because you would still. I mean,
Don't we know where that Woody came from? He's a 50s Howdy Doody TV show. We got that
Yeah.
origin story out of the way.
Yeah.
That's done. So are we
Yeah.
watching a live action 50s Buddy Rogers movie sometime soon with
I mean,
Chris Pratt? Shit.
Too bad.
you know?
Too bad Don Rickles isn't still alive. Because if there was an origin story for Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, Don Rickles could star in a live action origin of it, and it could be directed by
I've actually
David Cronenberg, and it'd be like a body horror movie.
Oh, that would be awesome.
It takes place in Whole Foods. It's amazing. Oh my God.
Potatoes of the future.
That's right.
I don't know.
Taters.
Oh,
Taters
No.
of the future.
I
don't know.
sorry. I think that's the end of the
Tom
comments
Hanks
right
is
now.
good.
Okay, sorry.
I mean,
Yeah. Okay. Here's the thing. Could they recast Tom Hanks? Yes. Would they? That's sort of the question.
That's
I
what
would
Tim
know.
Allen's wondering too.
I think he's more of the heart of Toy Story than Tim Allen is, because
Yeah.
by the time
Yeah.
Toy Story 4
Thank you.
came out, Toy Story 4 Buzz is kind of an afterthought, and half the time he's speaking Spanish with another actor doing his voice. So like I think that Tom Hanks is Toy Story. Like I mean, and that's not to say they shouldn't recast him either. I mean, like I said, if they can recast Harrison Ford as Han Solo, they can recast Tom Hanks as Woody. So
Exactly.
Yeah, well,
But that was a
it is
younger
a slightly
version.
different thing. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you could probably get away with casting Tom Hanks as a younger version of Woody, unless you're doing a live action version of it, in which case you're not
We
going
could
to
call
do
him
that.
Chet Hanks.
I think.
Whoa,
Oh,
yeah,
boy.
well, he's yeah.
The tough part.
If you want to
with-
avoid controversy, yeah, that's a good idea. Call up
The-
Chet Hanks.
the tough part with
I'll
trying
throw out
to
a
recast.
I'll throw out a shout out of
Hey, Mark's
Woulda,
talking there,
Coulda.
buddy.
No, that's
Oh,
okay.
sorry
Go ahead,
about
Don. No, go ahead, Don. That's fine. I'll shut up.
No,
Go
I'll
ahead.
throw out a woulda coulda if you guys have seen it. There's a short film, animated short film from some ex Pixar workers that came out, oh gosh, maybe 6 years ago, called Borrowed Time. I don't know if you ever
Mhm.
saw it. I think it played at the CCF FF. And it's an animated Pixar style short of a super violent Western. And it's kind of gives you that idea of if you could, go there, you could go there. I don't know if I could find a link for it. I'll send it to people. But.
Well, I'll have to see if if you find a link for it, I'll drop it down in the chat if it's something that's like someplace people can watch it for free.
Here's the thing with
Mark,
Lightyear.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I think we hit on the head earlier. It is entertaining. It's got the adventure aspect, but I did always get the feeling like it wasn't quite sure who it was going to be made for. If it's going to be made for your 8-year-olds, just straight your young 8-year-old crowd, I get that. But there's some things that are done and the way they're handled in here to where it's like, okay, no, they're trying to kind of playing the Pixar angle of making it for the adults and kids, but at the same time, the stuff they bring up for the adults doesn't always seem as a complete thought either. So a lot of the stuff that they put in here for adults to pick up on more so than kids it seems like, oh, here's the idea, but it wasn't completely thought out, but we threw it out here for the adults. You'll recognize it. We're going to move on and go back to the 8-year-olds. And it felt like it was just in this kind of quagmire of, do we play to the nostalgia and the 20-somethings that, grew up with this, or do we make it for the younger generation? Well, let's play it for both. But neither one for me just felt like they completely went all the way. I mean, if you look at the animated Buzz Lightyear show that came out, 50 episodes, I've got the movie on DVD. That did exactly what this movie was trying to set out with. But that one, the way it was written and everything, definitely know what audience it's meant for. And it's still written enough for adults who enjoy the series to enjoy it because you've got enough familiar elements. But at the same time, it's definitely the way it's handled with your kind of funny characters and the way the animation was definitely geared towards your 8-year-old. This one, I'm not saying 8-year-olds don't get, deserve animated films like this. They totally do. But the way it was written, the elements they worked in here, like they were trying to play both ends of the field. And for me, neither one felt really complete. If this was just completely kids, that's great. If it was made for completely kids, Zurg stays a robot.
Yep. Or an alien. Yeah, whatever.
Or an alien or whatever. And you find out that they've been there longer than that. It surprised me with the way the trailer, and this goes to what Annie was talking about, marketing. When you get Buzz landing on the Earth and you get the whole aliens effect to where you've been gone for 67 years, not 76 years, but close. And there's a robot ship in orbit and they're hiding from robots. It makes you think like this has been post-apocalyptic robot controlled dystopia for quite some time. And she says, oh, the ship showed up a week ago. And I'm like, wait,
that
what?
was they explained that away though. He says, I was only able to time travel back to this specific point, and because of that, and this is where I actually think I appreciate it, because I've been reading a lot of articles like in scientific magazines. They're talking about how this is actually a really hard sci-fi with the time dilution and things like that. But they mentioned
hard to stomach.
That's why he wasn't able to be arrested, because he invaded. It created an alternate reality, like a multiverse. Again, we have another multiverse, but that's why there's another Buzz, is because he was only able to go that far back.
Well, and no, I got all that, but again, if the way they were selling this and the way they had set things up, that goes along with my problem with it being Buzz. You're mentioning, well, he could only go back in time so far. Eliminate all of that. If you want this for 8-year-olds and you just want this for kids, just make it evil robot showed up and this is what we're doing. We don't need the Buzz being old and time traveling element, because by by doing that, that puts it in a different category. And I know what I said was, well, kids deserve, kids deserve a movie just written for them, and this felt like it was for both.
Let's remember that the Korg toy in the first two movies, Toy Story movies, was basically his arch nemesis, his antagonist from his storyline, wherever that storyline was coming from, a TV series or a movie. So this is like, oh, Korg, oh no, and to have, I mean, if Andy saw this movie in 95, then he knew that like Korg isn't all that evil. He's just old man Buzz.
Sorry, just to correct you, David. Korg is Taika Waititi's character from Thor. Zurg is
Zurg. Sorry, I'm getting all this mixed up.
But Mark, just Zurg, Korg. Real quick, one thing, Will. Mark, I think what I'm picking up on that you're saying, and I agree with, I think this movie tries to not necessarily be about too many things, but add too many ingredients to something. Because I'm with you. When we saw that alien ship and they mentioned that they showed up last week, there's so much information that we have to go on and process with the story, because we've got this group of misfits who are like in these, the kind of the ragtag armor and stuff that are away from the base camp. The shield is up. There's people still inside the fortress city, but we don't really find out what's going on with them. It's a completely subjective experience to this, ragtag group of resistance fighters, whatever. But then we're off jumping around to other things. This movie's only like an hour and a half long, and I feel like it should have picked a lane, picked the smartest and coolest of the 4 to 5 storylines that they're trying to tell, and just tell the best version of that, rather than mixing it all in to give it the illusion of richness and complexity when all it is just busyness. Will, what did you want to say?
No, I was going to say that the reason why the big reveal didn't bother me, and I actually think it fits with the story and actually does kind of go in a lane, is because one of the most all of us, I'm sure most of us, or all of us here, are comic book readers, but also maybe some Star Trek fans out there. I mean, the mirror universe is always popular. Why? Because we want to see what the opposite of our hero is. And then the what if in comics is always popular, because it's like, what if our hero went a different way? And that's what I like, is that Buzz's main arc is that his biggest enemy is himself, whether literally or metaphorically. So I actually didn't mind that, because that is a classic sci-fi trope. It's like, what if Buzz went bad? And what if Buzz did the wrong thing? And he has to literally fight that against his better nature. I thought that was pretty well done. Actually, I don't think that was a bad thing at all. I thought it was actually well played.
Well, but that's the key word there is trope. And I'm going to go back to this. Mm-hmm. You're going to spend $200 million to tell a story that we've seen 50 times before. Every major sci-fi brand and series and movie has done a version of this story. Mm-hmm. If you're going to do it, give me a reason to care. And this movie just doesn't have it, because Buzz Lightyear is not much of a character to begin with. We're not far along enough in his adventures, except maybe if I'd watched that cartoon show Mark was talking about, that I'd care that he had an alternate, reality version of himself, especially because it comes so late in the movie and is so quickly dispatched with that by the time I figure out whether or not I'm invested, he's already dead.
And here's where it actually hurt it, setting it that this is the movie that Andy would have fell in love with in 1995. Mm-hmm. Imagine, if you will,
okay, Rod Serling.
Imagine, if you will, what we were talking about earlier, in that, and Annie mentioned with the marketing, the way they attack the marketing with this, is you open this movie not with the title card, with Andy and his family going to see a new movie being released now about Lightyear, his favorite character. Now you're watching this, and so if you've got variations of that, they're more acceptable for many of us, because you're like, okay, this is a new version of a film that he watched when he was a kid. So now when you have Zurg being the villain, it's more acceptable, and it makes more sense than having the Zurg be Buzz. If this is the 1995 film, if this is the remake or the reboot or whatever that he's taking his family to see, and they make, Buzz Zurg, they could do that. And then you end either with one of the end credit sequences they have here, make one of them where he's leaving his family and he goes, I like it, but I don't like the change they made with Zurg.
Mm-hmm. Boom.
Just two bookends to this film.
This is
just to book ends to this film, I think would make it acceptable for some
Yeah, I agree.
more viewers. I'm not saying, I'm just saying that I think that's because it doesn't make sense. Then why does Zurg not sound like Buzz with the toy? If that's him, or at one point his head comes out, the mask, the mask comes off, and it's Buzz's face. And imagine that. That'd be a horror movie for Toy Story 2. Buzz is facing Zurg, he hits him, and all of a sudden the mask comes off, and it's Buzz's head.
How great would it have been if Old Man Buzz is voiced by Tim Allen and not James Bond?
Well, you know, and that's for if we're gonna go with that whole like movie theater idea, you know, they could have had some kind of a comment on the new voice actor. You know, well, it's a remake. We're gonna switch things around.
I'm just saying, putting it in the context and the stuff that they presented there. I get it. It's toys. It's for kids. But you can't tell me they wouldn't have made a Zurg with a removable helmet to show the Buzz underneath it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
this is all retro. They weren't thinking about this.
You
stuff
guys
in
the
90s.
Oh my god! No, this is the most frustrating conversation I've ever had about this movie. This movie this is like The Last Jedi all over again. It's like this is this and this. Like it's I mean, did we do this with the Toy Story movies? We were like, well, actually, the toy would have been built like this. And
right. That's the point, David. This is far beneath the quality and the intelligence of the original Toy Story trilogy. I mean, that's the thing is if you're going to build well, they are totally different things, but that doesn't mean that you get to shirk your responsibility because people have an expectation when it comes to Pixar films. I mean, you can look at a movie like what?
Expectations.
Screw expectations.
That's why I don't watch trailers, guys. I mean, come on.
What is that?
But the thing is, with these expectations, right? We are so comfortable to what we know. And someone said it earlier. We brought up a really good point. You know, we love these movies, you know, when we first saw them, whether it be 8 years old or whatever, right? How is that going to wear over the test of time? And how is that going to still have that same sense of charm and excitement and something new and something, you know, really thrilling about it? You know, knowing that Pixar's next movie is going to basically be Inside Out, except elements having feelings.
Yeah.
Good luck, Will. Good luck with sending that one. You have some time to get your arguments ready. But you know what I mean? It's, you know, you have these concepts and you have these beloved IPs that you could do so much with. I just don't know how this is so confusing. And I think, you know, to answer Patty's comment in the comment section, they bring up a really good they bring up I cut out there for a second, sorry. Yeah. Why do you think that the movie is sinking at the box office in its first day of release or first couple of days of release? And, you know, I think it's because Jurassic World. I think it's because people aren't interested because they don't have something to be interested in. Nobody knows. Nobody can tell what this is about from a trailers alone. You're not Disneyfying. This is an exception to the Disney glorification rule. You are not Disneyfying it enough in this instance for a mass audience to be interested. Mm-hmm. You know, I very coincidentally, I pitched this to a team of my writers earlier, the same exact question for them to put out as a news story. And I'm glad, you know, because I'm going to go into work tomorrow and see people click on it. So thank you. You know, it's there's not enough of a concept or substance here. You have the flashiness of the art, and you have the very waning nostalgia of Toy Story. You know, it's not as exciting as it was when we had the Toy Story in its prime. You're not marking your calendars.
We haven't even talked about Robot Cat.
We don't need to talk about Socks.
Socks rocked. Socks was the highlight of this movie. I loved Socks. I wanted more of Socks.
I'm not a cat guy, but I like Socks.
I enjoyed
Socks. But I will take Socks.
I wanted more of Socks.
That's probably the action figure Andy's buying, right?
Yeah, I like Socks better when he was Doug from Up.
Yeah, I wanted more characters like Derek, which my son
Eric
said he hated the fact that they soiled his name by putting a D in front of it, and because his name's Eric, and so they put Eric. You know, and I get Will's frustration, and you know, and you love what you love, and I get it. And there's movies that hit for me, aka The Last Jedi, which people are making the exact same arguments I'm making about Toy Story towards The Last Jedi. It's all on how it hits you. I'm not faulting. I get where you guys are coming from, but the same arguments I'm coming for you from some people, not in this panel, for defending the movie are the same arguments I come up for defending certain movies. And I get it. It's just some hit and some don't. And I understand the frustration. I'm not, not saying you're wrong. Just for me, going into this, it felt a little middle of the road, and it surprised me. It was funny because while I was watching this, I go, this is the Pixar movie they decide not to release to stream.
I thought the same thing. Now,
because
like,
I would think
it would have been great in theaters.
I think this film would have done a lot better going to Disney Plus than
disagree.
I think more people would have watched it because they wouldn't want to take a chance with admission with a film that, according to with the marketing, a lot of people weren't quite sure what it was. And in all honesty, the marketing behind this, it almost felt like Disney wasn't quite confident behind it, because there's films that they do marketing that it was kind of like the John Carter effect. I personally like John Carter, but you could tell that Disney was not behind John Carter because the marketing for that was crap. They literally were like, here's a trailer, here's a teaser. Okay, here's the movie. Okay, go away now. Go away. We're done with John Carter. You know what I mean?
But that Disney Plus trapdoor, is probably the number one reason why this movie isn't making money, because people are like, I can just wait till August and it'll be on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
I think that's the number one reason why it's not making money, because it deserves the big screen. It looks great.
Well, but Jurassic World is going to be on streaming in 6 weeks too. I mean, that's none of these things stay in the theaters very long.
Yeah, Peacock in 6 weeks. That's true.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Annie?
No, I was gonna say to Don's point. I was preoccupied with the quarantine, so I didn't get to screen this. But I was like, oh, I could just watch this on Disney Plus. I can knock it out. I'll get some work done. I'll put it up on my other monitor. I'll watch it out of the corner of my eye, right? Listen to it as I work. I can't do that, and I think that kind of disables the accessibility to this film, right? And it's great to be able to be back in theaters. It's awesome to be back in theaters. It's great. That should be an experience that everyone can at least do at least once, right? Maybe not for this one,
right?
But it's something to be done, and it's a cultural, socio-cultural bond.
Mm-hmm.
With this, though, I don't, especially for parents of children who are doing 20 other things in the summertime, parents who are working, people who can't get to a local theater, people who may need a little more time in advance to make sure that they can get their tickets and afford those tickets and be able to do that for their kids. We have to consider that a monthly Disney Plus subscription is unlimited. You could watch it as many times as you want to. You could go back and, put it on as many screens as you want to. You could do as much as you want with a single, what is it, like a $10 fee now? I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
I borrow my friends, but, it's nice to have that. And I think you can cut your losses and do what they were doing right after that early phase of the pandemic, where they were like, okay, we're going to go in theaters for like 90 days or like 9 days or whatever, 10 days. And then we're going to go online.
Mm-hmm.
And everything's going to be online. It's going to be out for like a week, right? You got to hurry, you got to rush. I think doing that, bringing back these dual strategy releases for things that they may not be confident in, if they don't want to see a physical decline at the box office, like Patty was mentioning earlier, this is the way how you win, or you charge a premium. You could go back.
Even if they don't know, even if they're unsure about whether they want to go see it in the theater, because it's Disney and they already, they are Disney Plus subscribers, some people who aren't willing to go to the theater or maybe aren't sold on, the idea of going to see this in the theater, they know, well, eventually this will be on Disney Plus. I'll see it then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I'm glad the audiences are growing with that patience, because I know we've talked about it on the show with other properties and other movies where they have killed the FOMO factor of these things, where because audiences are catching on, and a pandemic helps, where I'll just wait. Okay, maybe it gets spoiled for me. Yeah, that's fine. I'll still wait. Like they've done this to themselves, and that's going to be their own industry fault. And until they stand up and say, hey, Lightyear's going to be in theaters only until November, or like they're going to, you could pick any arbitrary date in the world, probably people will still wait, but everyone else is like, oh, I can wait till August, no problem.
Well, I mean, but that's, I think we're talking about something specific to Disney and the problem of Lightyear. It's not like the movies are going away. The movies are back in a huge way because Lightyear made $51 million to come in at number 2. Jurassic World made something like 60 plus,
65.
and then 65 this weekend, and then Top Gun Maverick. Buzz Lightyear just beat Top Gun Maverick, which has been out for a month. It came in at like it was like 48 something. I don't know what it was. But the point is, people are going to the movies. There's not everybody is impatient. I totally understand where the conversation is going, but we're kind of speculating about something that we're not going to have a grasp on for another decade as far as what the actual effect of this is. I mean, my argument about putting Buzz Lightyear in the theater as opposed to Disney Plus is, Mark, you're right. I think a lot of people would have started Lightyear, but the theater is pretty much, people are going to be more reluctant to get up and walk out and demand their money back. I certainly wanted to, but I'm like, well, I've already committed to this. If I'd started watching this on Disney Plus, I don't think I would have finished it.
You might not have, but at the same time, you've got kids the age, as Will and Don have pointed, it is for 8-year-olds that you could leave it on and they'll watch it. I know some of my friends who have young kids who had to put Encanto on loop.
Encanto is a very different movie, though.
Well, but it's a Disney film that was really. What I'm saying is, there's Pixar films, better ones that, for me anyway, personally, that were released either directly to Disney Plus or only a very short time in theater, and they went to Disney Plus, and the parents got them, or they paid the $20 to get that premium release during the pandemic because they have their group of kids of 6 or 5 or 2 or even 3 to sit and watch it for $20. That's going to be easier for a parent, especially if they're not quite sure about the film, than if you do a only solely to theater release. They're not going to drag the kids to a film they're not quite sure about. Whereas, with Lightyear, again, we bring back to it. I really wish they would have marketed to this film a bit differently, because the way they market it, I could see as a parent. Now, my kids are old, okay, and they still enjoyed it. My oldest kid still enjoyed Lightyear quite a bit. He enjoyed it more than I did, but he had problems with it as well with the writing. But he's like 21, but so he grew up with Toy Story. But it's just one of those things where I could see myself with young kids going, I'm not sure about the Lightyear, because everything from the trailer looks like it might be more geared towards adults, even though after you watch it, you realize it is geared more towards kids. But that's not exactly how it's promoted. It's promoted like your regular Pixar film, which is for, adults and kids, but definitely with more adult material in it. So I wouldn't be sure to take my kid to something that I'm not quite sure is about, and if it's actually made for them, versus Disney Plus, where I could turn it on. If I don't like it, click, get out of the room.
Right. And, honestly, as far as kids watching it, if they tune out or they get bored, there's a million different options on their television, on Disney Plus, on the iPad, on YouTube. I mean, it's a microsecond attention span generation, and that's not an indictment or anything. I'm just saying, I don't know. I'd like to visit the alternate reality where we had a way to look at how this would be handled in different, release strategies. But we're not there.
We also tend to think in bubbles, not scientifically. I mean. My experience was very different, and it's not scientific, but in my theater when we saw it, both my kids said it was awesome. There was a kid who literally stood up who was probably 8 or 9 who was like, that was awesome. Today I started summer school with first graders, and we talked about Lightyear for 30 minutes. The kids were like, oh, I love this and I love that and I love that. Now, like I said, that's just a very limited experience, but I think some people are seeing reports from people that are saying like, well, every kid was bored in the theater, but that's not scientific. And also box office is really tough with kids films because like you said, like kids aren't going to the movies just to buy tickets. Like if you go, you have to go with a parent. If the parent can't make it, that's possibly missing 3 to 6 kids in one family, 7 in another, 1 in another. Box office is really tough to gauge with a kids film because a lot of that audience relies on adults and also, and this is unfortunate. And some of us, like me and Don, are teachers in lower economic areas. kids can't see movies because
Right.
their parents are working 2 jobs all day. They don't have enough money to go to the movies. So there's a lot of factors going into this.
Didn't I present a very similar argument like 10 minutes ago?
Yes.
You did,
I
yes.
could have. I only
Right,
pay attention to myself talking. So
I understand that, but and I'm not denying what you're saying, but and this is a larger conversation. We would also have to apply that to, well, what does that say about the massive success about Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, Top Gun? There's all these movies that are out there making all the money, and people are just choosing for whatever reason to not go see Lightyear. I mean, this thing had a projected opening weekend 2 weeks ago of $135 million. It came in below the floor of the lowest estimate. Now, I want to just get.
I would love to see its hold in week 2. I'd be curious, like when we said that last week in Jurassic World.
My mom works with younger children. She works from infantile to 3 years old. And a lot of these families, they're also underprivileged. They are also, she's an independent contractor. She works in the state to be partnered with special needs families. A lot of these families do have many children. Older children, ranging from the 5 to 10 year range. So kind of what Don and Will are working with. And she comes home, I was like, oh, like any of your kids, your family's interested in seeing, because she Lightyear, because she'll ask me, she goes, you saw this, you know about this, what's your consensus, and then do you think you should take your kids? Like after Dr. Strange, I was like, don't take your kids, I'm serious, don't take your kids. I had an acquaintance of mine take her middle school year old children, like 10 to 13 or whatever, to go see the Batman. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? She's like, it's Batman. I'm like, I'm 23 and I almost got up and left. Like, I was so freaked out by a certain scene.
Plus, and cover your ears, Mark. That wasn't Batman. Sorry, go ahead.
But I'm like, what's the consensus with Lightyear? Are any of them really hooked on Buzz Lightyear yet? Right? And she goes, a lot of them are going to see Jurassic World Dominion
for 2.5 hours.
Well,
for the dinosaurs. And I just I felt like I got hit by a truck. I was like, they're taking their, I was like, wait a minute, Jurassic.
That's a bio sin.
She's asking, they're asking for a lot of coping mechanisms with anxiety, and they're asking like how to desensitize dinosaurs. I'm like, because and I'm like, wow, this kind of it definitely speaks to how this box office performance is being reflected, because people want to go see dinosaurs.
Me and Don are relatively the same age. I'm not sure about everybody else, but I saw Jurassic Park when I was 11. So people took me to see stuff like that. So I can go with it. I think it's part of the movie experience to see stuff you're not supposed to see at a certain age. That's just me. But
the mantra of an 80s kid will always be, because I was the 80s kid. I was in I was in 1920 when I saw 93. I was 18 years old when I saw Jurassic Park. Okay. So I'm a little older. You feel my arteries hardening. But anyway, for us who grew up in the early to mid 80s, our boomer parents took us to see just about anything, because the boomer parents had the attitude is, I'm going to go see a movie. I'm not going to pay for a babysitter. I'm taking my kid along. If you can't handle it. I saw Conan the Barbarian in theaters. It came out on 82. I was 7. Okay, I saw Dune. Dune traumatized me for a while, specifically the scene with Baron Harkonnen and the little hole in his buddy of his boy toy. Oh my God, I was young enough to at least comprehend what was going on, and that disturbed the hell out of me. I saw Blade Runner. I saw RoboCop. But our mantra was, I was too young to see that film, but yet I saw it anyway. So I get what you're saying, Will, as well, is that
But also, sorry, buddy. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No,
I was just gonna say, Jurassic World, even though it sucks, we talked about this last week. It is more of a 4-quadrant type of film.
Oh, it is. No, it's
you've got your 60-year-olds in there. You got your 6-year-olds. You've got your 30-year-olds. Your 20-year-olds. I mean, more people can see that. So everyone loves dinosaurs. So it is more of because all of these inexplicably awful Jurassic World films have made trillions of dollars. So it's not just an isolated incident where Jurassic World is doing well, and Lightyear isn't. Jurassic World has been successful for,
because
10 years, you know.
In the end, we mentioned everybody loves dinosaurs. You want to go see the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs are a spectacle. They're beyond the Ray Harryhausen stop motion, but even the Ray Harryhausen stop motion, land, that time forgot, all of those people still watch and endear them, even if they're crappy plot movies, because you're watching it for the dinosaurs. And that's how they've marketed those Jurassic World films, is they're not showing the plot. They don't care. They're showing you dinosaurs. They're showing you the foot. They're showing you the stuff we've seen because you want to see the dinosaurs. Lightyear had the slight problem is that it's a Toy Story type of film, but you're only seeing Buzz, who doesn't quite look like Buzz, and where are the other characters? So the way they market it, I am fully with Annie, who is definitely, I bow to her expertise because for marketing, because I don't know that, but just from the casual observer, this film was, I think if it was marketed better, it would have done better its opening weekend. I really think it would, regardless of its flaws and the things that Ian and I have problems with and everybody loves. I think if they would have marketed this better, it would have done better. And marketing means everything. Yeah. Just give me just a little moment. I talked to the director many years ago about Spaced Invaders. I got a chance to interview the director of Spaced Invaders. Nice. And one of the things we talked about was the trailer. Because when I was a kid and saw the trailer for Spaced Invaders, it was completely different than the actual movie. And I actually brought it up to him, and he said, oh, God. He's like, the marketing for it was awful. You listen to the interview, he fully acknowledges it. They overdubbed other dialogue. They overdubbed everything in his trailer to make it more funny. And the film is still entertaining. It's definitely for kids, but that humor in the lines, nothing in the trailer that was said was in the movie. So, I mean, marketing is kind of everything for some of these films. And if you don't take the right direction, it can kill you opening weekend. Now, will it pick up in the second weekend?
It's what David said, though, because David said this earlier, I think at the beginning.
Yeah.
There is an arrogance to it because they're thinking, oh, it's Buzz, it'll make money. Right. But unfortunately, Buzz isn't quite the cultural icon that a Spider-Man is, or a Batman, or because Marvel doesn't have to market stuff. They have like all the stuff going in. DC doesn't have to do that. Really,
wait a minute, I'm going to stop you right there. They have to market Miss Marvel.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, I'm saying,
look how that's going.
I'm saying in general,
into this vault, right? And they aren't. They can't. Petty brought up another really great comment here about Disney Plus and what's on Disney Plus. Working in search engine optimization, right? A lot of the searches for Miss Marvel. Who is this? Right? Is she the same as legitimately? Is she the same as Captain Marvel?
Yeah.
Are they things like that? You know what I mean? It's not
the rule.
Intrinsically known. It's not something where you go, oh my God, Spider-Man. Because I coincidentally I had the first Sam Raimi one on when I was working today. I was just listening to it. I'm like, God, I'm old, and I felt my bones shiver up inside my body, right? When I saw 2002 pop up. But it was like not like knowing these films like the back of my hand and being able to quote the lines along with it and know who this is because they're iconic. Lightyear is iconic to everyone except for a younger generation.
Yeah, that's the point I'm getting.
And you went on Facebook and said, here are all the blind spots I missed with Toy Story.
Yeah, sure.
Is he iconic to you?
No, I don't think so. So I mean, I know of him. So there's a difference. Like there's people that there's characters you can go to people like my mother, rest in peace. Like she knew who Captain Kirk was. She might not know the mythology of Captain Kirk. She knows Captain Kirk. Most people know who Buzz Lightyear is. Even if I'd only seen the first Toy Story, I knew who Buzz Lightyear was. I knew the actor behind it. I knew the character. So there's levels of somebody knowing something. It's the same thing with like sports fans. Like, yeah, like I know kids at school who know who Steph Curry is, but they're not going to know who Andrew Wiggins is. Like there's levels to that stuff. So iconic to me, it wasn't something that was part of my childhood, but definitely a character that I've known about because I've been to Disney World and I've been on the Buzz Lightyear rides. I've seen the Buzz Lightyear while I was raising my kids. I've seen the Buzz Lightyear milk cartons, and it's part of society.
Is he missing?
Oh, on the milk carton? Well, yeah. That was,
okay.
Have they found him yet?
all I'm saying is Miss Marvel and Moon Knight, perhaps the exception, not the rule. What I'm saying is you've already got the highest grossing film of this year is a Doctor Strange sequel. People didn't know who Doctor Strange was other than comic book nerds 10 years ago. So that's all I'm saying is it's an exception with Marvel and DC and things like that. But
Well,
No,
those
people
questions are
don't know who
scratches.
America Chavez is, including
Yeah.
screenwriter Michael Waldron.
Ah,
Oh,
yeah, nice. But
those-
no, but
those-
David,
Yep.
those
But
questions
David
are head
is-
scratchers. Those questions are
Well,
head
no,
scratchers
you bring
to
up
me
a good
because
thing with the marketing, and like Mark kept saying, which I really appreciate him digging into that. It's really exciting to hear. AMC, right? $20 for a Buzz Lightyear plastic popcorn take home container, right? You're gonna have people all over that. You're gonna get that for your kids, but you can only get that if you're seeing Lightyear. Hey, here's my collector's cup. Put the Buzz Lightyear toys back in the stores. Do it. You know what I mean? And you label it as an exclusive. You say this is exclusive for Lightyear. You put that on the Nickelodeon. You put it on Disney Channel, right? You throw those toy ads on Disney Channel. You throw it on Disney Plus, on your YouTube ads, your pop-up ads, your Coca-Melon for your kids, right? You throw it on there, right? And you label it with a Buzz Lightyear exclusive. You throw that keyword of Buzz Lightyear. Here's the toy, and here are new lines from the movie. Or here's a sock. I bet they have like a talking socks out there.
I'm sure
serious.
Yeah.
Or you go to Build-A-Bear and you partner with Pixar, you partner with Disney, you get the squeeze in the paw, and it says a voice line.
if you look up the Lightyear like toy merchandise right now, I looked it up earlier, like on Amazon and stuff. It's not like cartoonish. It doesn't at all resemble the Toy Story. It resembles like the type of action figures that you would get from a sci-fi movie. You know, like it has all the characters, and
almost like a Star Wars Black Series kind of a thing.
Kind of something like that. I mean, they're what 3 3/4 or something like that. And that, like Will, I kind of like looked that stuff up first. I'm like, I kind of want the one with the socks, and then that's okay.
Yeah, I dug it. Yeah,
so yeah, I mean, those toys are going to be out there. I mean, what's a head scratcher to me is when you commented that somebody was wondering who Miss Marvel was. Well, you could answer that question by Googling it. Hello? I mean, I don't know.
What do I do for work?
Microsecond attention
I
span.
understand that.
You're just in my job.
The fact is, somebody is either lazy or dumb enough to say, what is Miss Marvel? I don't understand. Well, Google it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Hold on. We got one last comment here, and then we're going to wrap it up because we are almost officially, I think, we're close to the runtime of the movie we're discussing. So Betty closes out. For this reason, this group is the best because it's made up of 40s like me, and they don't make me feel like a dinosaur.
Hey, I've got 10 days. I've got 10 days till I'm 40, so I'm holding on to those 30s.
Well, you and I have the same birthday.
We have the same birthday?
Yep.
Wow.
I think I'm still the oldest here.
You are easily the oldest here.
I am still the oldest here. So
I'm 50.
Oh, okay. You've got me beat by a couple years, David. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say David was like 48 when Jurassic Park came out.
David, you got me.
Yeah.
He was 48 when the Jurassic era came out. No,
that's right.
He was shaving.
It was a good dinosaur.
If you ever want to laugh, I actually have. I don't know if I will ever post them. I have recordings from when I did the cable channel movie review show for student television here on campus.
Wow.
Where I reviewed Toy Story. Nice. It is ridiculous. I watch it and cringe and go, I've released a small clip of me reviewing one clip, and I think that's all I'm going to ever release to the public because it's just so cringy. I'm like, oh my God. But I opened my review.
Come on.
I opened up my review of Toy Story with hand-drawn animation is dead. That's what I said. Because I was blown away. But
nice job, Prophet.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. But no, I was blown away by Toy Story. So even at college level, Toy Story impressed me as a filmmaker. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the other ones. In this one, not so much. I didn't hate the film. Okay. I didn't hate it. There were just a lot of issues with it to where, as we mentioned tonight. So, I get the people that are loving it. I think they approached this wrong. I think if a different approach for and we mentioned
So
expectations.
did you.
But and maybe I went in with no.
So
I
did
had,
you.
I had no expectations for it though going in. I was just curious what they were going to do, and I loved the characters. I loved the animation is beautiful. It is. It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
But
I'm the guy. I'm the guy that'll say it like this. I don't care what any of us our age think about it. If a kid loves
Right.
it, mission accomplished.
Absolutely.
That's all I care
No.
about.
That kid's in the right. That's that's it.
Yeah.
That is it. That's gospel. If
No,
the
I-
kid
I
loves
need-
it, you have.
I see
If I love it,
more
great.
kids than
But if
the
my
average
kids love it, even
person.
better.
Yeah, I see more kids than the average person does. So I'm a teacher. I've had very positive experiences so far.
And that's the important part. I mean, we're all adults trying to look at this kind of as kids, and even trying to be a kid again, it still is tough to from our perspective, because we've experienced so much nowadays and watched so many films. But yeah, as long as it hits with that target demographic, then they've got a winner. And there weren't many kids in our audience, so maybe when we went to see it as well, which surprised me. When we went to see it, I was like, I would have figured there'd be more kids here, and there weren't. So I can't speak to what their experiences were, but I can say that I can see how kids would love it. Yeah. So I'll wrap it up. Well, I'm just waiting for
wrap
him.
it up, Buzz Lightyear.
I'm just waiting for you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Waiting
I
for the
didn't
host
mean
to
I'm
to-
come
gonna
back.
need one of those after this show.
My apologies.
Yeah.
My apologies
After
for
party's coming.
mentioning. Yes. No, I apologize.
Yeah, when we do
no.
our score podcast, we cannot go this long.
Oh,
okay?
All right, so let's
It's-
just
no, no,
outro.
35
Let's just outro the show as Ian asked. So
did he?
oh,
I
is he?
didn't. I missed
Oh,
it.
okay.
The
So,
oldest in the room's taking charge, guys. The oldest in the room.
you can look at our names. This is
Yep,
who we
yep.
are. It's been great to be here. Love
This is my name.
everybody's perspectives and opinions. No, Tim Allen, is great to hang out with you. And Annie,
They're
thanks
all
once-
right.
Thanks
and
once
I'm
again,
wrong.
Annie, for hanging out with the old folks. And we will see us. We'll see each other again at some point. I don't know which film, but
To
I'm
infinity
Sure I'm sure
and
Ian-
And beyond.
You're really bad at this, David. Oh,
Like, subscribe Ian's channel here if you like what
That's
you see.
what-
Also
that's
subscribe
what you
to
gotta say.
everything that's here. Their links will be down in the body message of this
Mm-hmm.
video. We thank this panel. Thank them for their patience for listening to this Pollock Ramble. Comments are always great. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Ian, this is the best we've seen you at. Thank you so much. And I would say good night, everyone.
There.